Hey guys, this is going to be really hard to share today, but I have my testimony finally that I think I'm ready to share. And it's not going to be pretty at all, um, but I feel like a lot aren't, but it could be wrong. I guess in the end it is pretty because God has always been there for me. But the first miracle I ever received from God was life. I was born 3.5 months early, which in 1996 is really early. My mother and I almost died during child labor. I had to have a heart monitor and a breathing tube and a feeding tube. The heart monitor I had to have for about a year of my life. My heart used to stop. My mom used to have to bang on my chest so that my heart would start again. So that was my first blessing. I'm blessed right off the bat, which, all of us are, but, I'm just grateful that, I made it through that first year. Fast forward to growing up, and growing up, I always had a feeling that God was there. I went to church. I would do little things to be like, God, if you're real, show me this or do this or whatever. And sometimes it would happen, and other times it wouldn't. But ultimately, I believed in God. And I would pray, and I went to church with my friend Sandra, and, I was really close to him at one point. But then my stepmom's friends would tell me not to bring God around their children, and they would just be very rude and make fun of me for my belief, and so I strayed away from God at that point because I was so worried about everybody, liking me. And growing up being worried about people liking me and being good enough, I was very depressed. Very depressed. I felt secluded. I felt different and like I didn't belong here, like not just where I was, but on earth. And I was drove into a Great Depression. Most of my adolescence was spent not living, but trying to take my own life. I remember one time specifically, I had a really rough couple months. I was in and out of psych wards hundreds of times with no success. I missed my whole freshman year of high school in and out of psych wards, and luckily they still passed me. But I believed that I was at the end of my rope after months and months and months of going to the psych ward and trying therapies and medications and, still not being good enough. My parents still being upset with me and just everything going so crazy. So that night I went into my room and everyone was upstairs, and I think me and my parents had just gotten into a really bad fight. I grew up with my dad and my stepmom, and they both had kids of their own, so I always felt secluded, like I wasn't a part of their family. And so I was really ready to just let go. And I tied an extension cord to my ceiling fan, and I climbed my loft bed, and I would put it around my neck, and then I take it off, and then I put it around my neck, and then I take it off, and then finally I put it around my neck, and I leaned into it, and my mom or stepmom ended up coming downstairs, and she saw me, and she ended up ripping the extension cord from my ceiling fan, um, saving my life ultimately. And but God had told her, you know, something's wrong with Allison. You need to go down there now. And she did. And it saved my life. And today I'm grateful for that. Back then I wasn't, because I didn't know God. But now I do. And I'm so unbelievably grateful for that. It wasn't my time to go. And God had more plans for me. But a part of me honestly never really wanted to die. I just wanted to belong. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be in a place of peace, a place where there was nothing but love surrounding me. And so most of my adolescence and young adulthood was actually spent searching for that place, when it, knowing what I know now, is with me the whole time. God never leaves you. God is always there. No one can ever take him away from you. So if you're struggling with depression or anxiety or suicide or self-mutilation or an eating disorder or anything, God is always there. He loves you. He will always protect you. He's always going to fill that void within you. So seek him, and you will never thirst again. You won't have to seek anywhere else for fulfillment. Moving on, along with the suicide attempts, because there were many, I used to self-mutilate in my shower. I used to cut myself for punishment and to release pain that I was feeling. One night I was in the shower and I was self-mutilating, and I actually had cut myself too deeply, and a part of me just knew to tell my parents about it. God has come to me so many times during, my life, and just been like, you need to stop, please stop, my child, please, and just love yourself and go get the help you need. And so there was a couple instances where I did do that, and I honestly believe that if I wouldn't have, I probably would have died. So I'm still here today, and that is such a blessing. Guys, it is such a blessing to be here today and to be breathing and to wake up every day, and oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Life is so beautiful. So back to my testimony throughout my life, which, sorry, it's going to be long, but finally I reached my sophomore year of high school, and I found a new release. God had sent choir and dance into my life, and I put my everything into both of them, and they helped me escape and feel some sort of fulfillment, that I was enough and that I was needed, and that somehow made what they were doing a better performance, that I somehow helped make it a better performance. And God sent me there, and he showed me at an early age what I would love to do for the rest of my life, and what will always be an outlet for me when I feel depressed, or when I feel anxious, or when I feel, some hint of, being suicidal or something. But he seriously, was there, and just, he always is, through my music and through my dance. And it's mostly for him, praise for him, because when I praise him, everything else fades away, and it's such a glorious feeling, you guys. But soon after I found these things in high school, I got kicked out for having bad grades. And so I dropped out of high school, and I moved out of my parents' home, and I started living with friends. I partied a lot. I slept around. I became homeless so many times, like ridiculous amount of times. One time when I became homeless, it was one of the worst snowstorms probably ever I've witnessed in my lifetime in Missouri. It was in 2012. I had short sleeve shirt on, really, thin pair of leggings and a pair of boots. I was walking Highway 30 with nothing but the clothing on my back. I was depressed and I really didn't care where I ended up at this point. I started hitchhiking, not caring about my safety or where I was going to end up. Nightfall fell, and this man picked me up in his pickup truck, and he asked me where I was going and why I was out there. So I tried to explain to him the best that I could, my situation and why I was walking Highway 30 in one of the worst snowstorms in my lifetime. But he actually picked me up and took me to his home where I met his wife, and they both cared for me all night. They fed me, they clothed me, they let me shower. They even tried to contact my parents, but my parents were on a cruise at the time, and my biological mom was living in Florida at the time. And their daughter ended up working for the police dispatch, and so she came and talked to me about my story and everything, and it was really awesome because I just felt like God sent me these people to show me love when I didn't love myself, and at that time I just really needed some love because there's been so many nights where I knew I wouldn't make it through the night. Like, I knew. I would say to myself all the time, if someone doesn't come along or if something doesn't happen, then I'm just done, and God would always come in and make sure that, someone came along to show me some love, or someone came along to stop me from taking my own life. And, for that, I'm so blessed, you guys. I'm so blessed. But this next part of my life is the hardest to talk about. Because as ugly as you think that is, it gets worse, you guys. This is what happens when you don't have God in your life. You're lost, you're confused, you're constantly searching for fulfillment. But this hole that you view as fulfillment is Jesus shaped, and the only thing that can fill it is Jesus, guys. It's true, it's so true, and I wish I would have known now, but my relationship with God is so close now because of everything that I've gone through and everything I've survived because of Him. But this next chapter of my life is really hard. No one really knows about this, but maybe 3 people in my life. But the next stop on my journey was to another friend's house that I went to high school with. It was in North County, St. Louis. We had all gotten very drunk, took some pills, which was Klonopin and Seroquel, which that and alcohol is not the best mixture. I had started some cocaine because the guy who was there was a coke dealer who also happened to work for my father at the time. When I reached my limit, I don't really remember, but I passed out. And when I had woke up, a man was raping me while his wife was at work. I just laid there and pretended that I was asleep, and wished that I was. Praying for the first time in years that God would somehow save me. The next day, though, after not talking to my father in maybe, I don't know, months, upon months probably, I reached out to him, or he reached out to me, and I think he reached out to me and asked me how I was doing. And I asked him if he could come pick me up. And he did. And I really feel like it was just God, like, tapping on his shoulder and being like, something's wrong with Allison. You need to call her, you need to text her, you need to, go get her. And he did. And I'm so blessed for that, because I don't know what would happen if I would have stayed. Then ended up getting fired for different reasons. I'm assuming for probably a drug test, or finding out that he was selling drugs or something. But my dad ended up taking me to another friend's house where, fast forward, I don't know, maybe 6 months after living with my friend. There's a lot of stuff in between there, but, to sum all the in-between stuff, God always provides for you. You guys, God will always provide for you. You're hungry, you will be fed. You're homeless, you will be clothed to ensure your warmth. You're broke, it doesn't matter, because you will always be fed. You will always have water. There will always be a kind soul out there who has God in their heart, who will be willing to help you. And man, I have seriously, that is like the number one thing that I live by. Like, materialistic things do not mean crap, because God will always provide for you the necessities. And that is so very, very, very true. But I'm not happy about my life choices in this next part, nor how I treated those around me. I stole from people. I had gone down a very, very dark path of destruction.